the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new video. This is by request. We're going to talk about how to know when your mix is done. So a lot of questions asking me how I determine when a mix is finished. So we're going to go through a few different aspects of this to help you know when to draw the line and move on to the next session. So the first thing, this is very, very important, is you want to make sure that your mix is consistent across many different playback systems. So some of you out there are listening on your set of monitors or your headphones or whatever your one setup is for mixing. And when it sounds good there, you decide it's done. This is a really big mistake because you're gonna need to take it outside of your studio, your native listening environment, maybe even send it off to another engineer or another artist in a different environment with different speakers, get their perspective, but ultimately you need a different perspective as well. So you take it into the car, listen on some different headphones, listen on your laptop, listen on a television, all types of different things, your cell phone, very important, and make sure that it feels consistent across those playback systems. So it's not going to sound the same, obviously. You know, you've got limitations in something like a phone or a laptop in terms of the low end, but you want to make sure that you are compensating as best as you can. And I know at that point that when I send it off to the artist or my client, they're going to be hearing it the way that I hear it. I've had it in the past where I may have mixed it on just studio monitors, send it over, and they may be listening to it on the laptop. And if I haven't referenced what it sounds like on a laptop, then I haven't compensated and I haven't balanced the mix and I haven't made it as consistent as possible. So we don't know what they're going to be hearing. You got to have the different perspectives to understand, because we're all hearing things a little bit differently, especially on these different playback systems. So keep this in consideration. But you've played this thing back and you play it front to back over and over again. And as a listener, there's certain things that are going to jump out and go, I mixed that too hot. Or maybe there's some sibilance in a hi-hat or in a vocal that bothers you. Maybe an ad-lib just isn't sitting right as you play it back. So every time you go through it, you pick up these things and you go back and you fix it. And you go back and you fix it. You know, most of the time, the real big issues are going to stand out pretty quickly for you. But again, the more you listen to it, the more that you're going to open yourself up to potential problems. Sometimes you run out of resources. So what do I mean by this? Some of you are getting into your mixing sessions and you're using a ton of different plugins. You've got a lot of audio tracks going on, and there may just be a case where you're getting a little overkill and your CPU starts to have some hiccups. Maybe your hard drive is having trouble with all the audio edits you've put into your mixing session. At that point, you can pretty much say maybe you've gone a little bit overboard with your plugins and your processing, because this is a common misconception. You feel like you need to put a ton of plugins and have these massive chains going on for each track. And maybe you're not using your plugins efficiently. And this is something I talk about a lot on the channel, using auxes and buses and sends so you can reuse plugins. If you're curious about that, I'll put a link up here. But you may just want to start simplifying things and taking things away so that you can get closer to a finish without hitting your head up against the wall because of these technical CPU, computer related, DAW related issues that you've caused by not working in an efficient way. Lastly, you may be mixing in a studio environment where you're paying for studio time, or maybe you're just limited by the time of a project. I've had things where, you know, clients tell me, hey, my deadline to get this submitted for distribution is in a day or 2 days. And so I don't have the luxury to listen to a session, you know, hundreds of times, in that case, mostly. I'm usually going to have a little bit limited space or span of time to make edits. So we've got to make sure that they are very objective in what they're telling me they want. Ask them for references, make sure they're very clear about the sound that they're going for. And that's going to make it so that I can be more efficient in terms of the turnaround but you may just run out of time. And obviously in that case, the mix is done. You got to do the best you can. You know, I can remember some of my favorite mixes have been in those tight turnarounds. So don't panic. It actually is not a bad thing to set some time limitations or have those time limitations imposed on you in the mixing process, because it's easier to decide when you're done, knowing you don't have an infinite amount of time to work on it. So keep that in mind. You can use that to your advantage even if you don't necessarily have a deadline. If you have any input on how you know when your mix is done, feel free to leave a comment below. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing, and we'll talk to you soon.